Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and I think it's about time to come with a Rico report, man. And for those of y'all who may not know, Rico reports, we bounce around everywhere to try to fill in all of the random facts that you may have missed since the last time I did a Rico report. So anything that wasn't like major breaking headlining news that I felt like deserved like an entire video or something like that, especially with all of the free stuff going on. So we're going to dive into a lot of different things, like the Washington Commanders losing an important person in their front office business side of things, but then gaining a big one, especially if you're one of those people that cares about getting a stadium done in DC. This is your guy. Also, apparently the Washington Commanders may be desperate for an edge rusher. Also, we have a realistic Washington Commanders trade back scenario for the draft, and I have video clips of players working hard this offseason already. And a reporter out there said that Laremy Tunsil won the offseason. And we have so much more to talk about even outside of that. And of course, I have a fun fact for you by the end of this video, so make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to give you that at the end of the video. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff on that like button, stiff on the subscription button, stiff on the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinion video just like this one. Now, the Javon Kinlaw video is the only one that I need to really make sure I backtrack and get done. So be on the lookout for that sometime this week. Without further ado, let's go dive into this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. Alright, so first of all, just in case if you missed it, JomCom reported like a week ago, probably even over a week ago on his own podcast, that the Commanders were definitely in on Joey Bosa and DeMarcus Lawrence. So it sounds like we're really serious about adding some pass rusher help here, because especially with those guys being the ages that they are, but they're known, at least back when they were in their primes, as far as guys that can get to the quarterback. We brought in a bunch of guys that can set the edge and stop the run. We brought in several guys that can do that, even re-signed a few as well. But we don't have a lot of get to the quarterback options right now outside of Dorrance Armstrong. You know, he looked great in the playoffs at times, but can he do that consistently throughout the entire season? Then you have Jacob Martin, who we signed over from the Bears. Maybe you're hoping that him getting more snaps will lead to way better production. He was pretty efficient last year for the Bears. We'll see. And then 7th round Javonte Jean-Baptiste. He showed very occasional flashes last year outside of the times that he was hurt. So maybe you're hoping for an ascension from him, or just a sudden leap in development. But as of right now, we don't have like a true pass rusher that I can just feel confident they're going to at least get us double-digit sacks right now at the edge rusher position. And that's why we were more than likely in on Joey Bosa and DeMarcus Lawrence. Even at their old ages, maybe they can give you some pass rush upside that other guys that are currently on the roster do not give you. And then I'm definitely assuming that we want Khalil Mack as well. If you were trying to get Joey Bosa or Dexter Lawrence, Khalil Mack is the way better option out of the three. And so even though JomCom didn't say that one, maybe they already knew that Khalil Mack wasn't worth whatever money the Chargers paid him. I would have paid him even more to come to the Commanders. I wanted Khalil Mack that bad. Also feel like we need pass rush help that bad, but that's just me. But of course, we missed out on Joey Bosa and DeMarcus Lawrence, so I guess the Commanders either weren't willing to pay them as much money as they were officially given by the other team that they landed on, or maybe not offer them as long as a contract, because Dexter Lawrence somehow got 3 years. And he hasn't been like playing at a very high level in a couple of years. I don't know why I forgot the Seahawks signed him. It's like a 3-year contract. I don't know how they even possibly think by that 3rd year DeMarcus Lawrence is going to be any good, or at the very least worth whatever contract he's getting. And then shouts out to Burgundy Blog, because he brings up a good point. I completely agree with the fact that this is the philosophy that the Commanders had going on in this offseason. He said, "It dawned on me that with recent trades, the Commanders were clearly targeting game changers, while the free agent signings they were clearly targeting nothing flashy, but he knows what he's doing type of guys." And that's kind of what we ended up with. Now, it does seem like, again, from the reports, that maybe we were interested in other guys. There are reports that are saying that we were even trying to actually get in on the Trey Hendrickson situation, maybe even the Myles Garrett one, but those are trades. So I guess that kind of cancels that out. It sounds like we were willing to trade for elite players, but when it came to free agency, we're just like, hey, just come here with a certain level of floor. We can depend on you. You could be a rotational guy, depth guy, but if you have to start, we'll be all right. But no headlining type of guys, and that's cool. That's the way and then you get the ceiling through the draft and via trades as well. That's what it seems like. That's maybe that wasn't their intent coming into free agency, but that's what the result was. I'll tell you that. Now moving on, shouts out to Tan Top Podcast. Make sure you follow them on Twitter, subscribe to your YouTube and everything, man. They do great work, and they bring up a good point, a good trade back scenario for the Commanders, because back in 2022, the Buccaneers traded back from 27 to the Jaguars 33, ended up getting picks 106 and 180 out of it. So they dropped 6 spots and picked up a 4th and a 6th rounder. And that sounds like something that Adam Peters would love to do this upcoming draft. Do not be surprised at all if we trade back. I'm telling you right now, I feel like we're more likely to trade that 1st round pick for an elite player than we are to select there. But I think the most likely route is that we do trade back. And just to go back to 2022 real quick, you have the Bucs going from 27 to 33, and they picked up a 4th and a 6th rounder to do so. We, as of right now, only have 5 total picks in this draft. 1st, 2nd, no 3rd, gotta wait all the way till the 4th, then no 5th, and then we have a 6th and a 7th. That's it. So it would be nice to pick up a 4th and a 6th round pick as well. And you know Adam Peters loves draft picks. That's how you know that he really wanted Deebo Samuel and Laremy Tunsil big time, because he highly values draft picks. He places a higher value on draft picks than most other GMs, because, I mean, I feel like a lot of that is more so just because he believes that he can actually scout and find the right guys with those draft picks. He's not just throwing away 6th, 7th round draft picks on just anybody's. These are guys that he expects to eventually become good players, especially with the coaching staff that he hired, that he trusts to develop these guys and put them in the right situations to become the best that they can be as often as possible. So either way, long story short, Adam Peters loves his draft picks, but that's how much he really wanted guys like Laremy Tunsil. He's willing to give those away. And of course, if there's a scenario where all he has to do is move back a couple of picks, and then he'll acquire additional picks throughout the draft, he will definitely take that. That's what I kind of prefer to do, unless like an elite, ridiculous player that has no business falls to us at 29. I'm like trade back, man, because the guy that you can get at 29, you can easily get in the 30s. I mean, some people are arguing that the guy that you can get at 15 is the same guy you can get in the 40s. They feel like it's like a steep drop off after the first 10, 15 guys. And so the only problem is who will be willing to trade up. Like, it takes 2 to tango. We can't just say, oh, we want to trade back, and then now it's legally required for another team to trade up to our pick. Somebody has to want to trade up. So the only scenarios I could see is that somebody wants to trade back up to like the end of the 1st round to potentially get that 5th year option, potentially more than likely on some type of like a quarterback, maybe like a Jackson Dart if he's there. Who knows? I've seen some mock drafts where Shadir Sanders is even available there, where like maybe they don't truly believe in either of these quarterbacks to come in and start day 1 for them, but let's go ahead and get that 5th round option on them just in case, especially with the fact that we don't necessarily trust them to start year 1. So at least we'll get that additional year on the back end to get a nice maybe 4 years out of this quarterback's rookie contract. Basically what the Ravens tried to do with Lamar Jackson. He ended up starting sooner than they expected. He ended up being better than what I guess all other NFL teams expected, with the fact that he was even available that late in the draft. If you were to redraft right now, he never would have made it out of the top 3. But my point is, they traded back up late in the 1st, assuming that Lamar Jackson was more raw than he actually was, and just to make sure they had that 5th year option just in case he can't, he's too raw to even play his rookie season. I can see something like that happening with Jackson Dart, or maybe even a Shadir Sanders. We'll see. Again, just remember, it takes 2 to tango. Now moving on, shouts out to Serena Burks of Commanders Wire for pointing out the fact that the Commanders left tackle, now currently Laremy Tunsil, was named a winner during free agency. Bill Barnwell of ESPN said that Laremy Tunsil is one of the players that literally won free agency, like including teams, like out of all teams and players that had the best free agency, he pointed out Laremy Tunsil as one of the winners, again, compared to other teams out there. Shouts out to Serena as well, because she said Tunsil is one of the very few NFL players who represents himself in negotiations. And ESPN's Bill Barnwell thinks Tunsil might be an even better agent than he is a player after landing the deal that he got during free agency to get traded to the Washington Commanders. Because in that article, Bill Barnwell said nobody has parlayed being traded at the right time into more money than Laremy Tunsil. And remember, in 2019, when the Texans traded 2 first-round picks to acquire him from the Dolphins, he declined to sign an extension as part of the deal. That's crazy. That's crazy that the Texans even signed him without making sure that was done already. A year later, he took then general manager Bill O'Brien to the Cleaners, signing a 3-year, $66 million contract that both moved the left tackle market forward and allowing him the potential to hit free agency again before turning 30 years old. This guy is an elite self-agent. Before the Texans drafted quarterback C.J. Stroud in 2023, they gave Tunsil another 3-year deal, this time for $75 million. Now with Stroud entering the final year of his bargain deal before presumably getting paid next offseason, the left tackle is on the move again. The Texans traded Tunsil to the Commanders on way back then, swapping 4th round picks while landing a 2nd and a 3rd round selection from Washington in the process. It was a really complicated trade, but either way, Bill Barnwell is saying not only did Laremy Tunsil win because now he's on the Commanders that are like on a positive trajectory. They were just in the NFC Championship game. They're trying to be Super Bowl contenders. So there's that, but also with the fact that he represents himself as an agent and he keeps finding a way to come out on top and the winner every time there's any type of move, contract to be signed, trade to be had that's associated with him. He always finds a way to win in the situation, and he basically did so again, Bill Barnwell is saying. Now moving on, you also have some Commanders players doing some nice workouts and really getting in some work this offseason. They're not waiting until after the draft when we start to meet for like OTAs and stuff. Nah, they're working now, like Frankie Louvu with this clip right here. And my only real question here is like, what is that liquid in the ball that he's over there practicing with and things like that? It's pretty weird, but either way, I'm just happy to see Frankie Louvu working hard on his craft right now. Of course, there's no pads or helmets. We're in March right now, but shouts out to Frankie Louvu for putting in that work. And then also you have Deebo Samuel as well. And he's probably been doing this for a few years now. Like, he clearly loves boxing, but he's been putting in some serious boxing work this offseason. I'm all for it, man. For him to continue that whole persona of being Deebo, I feel like having some elite boxing skills would help a lot with that. And it could probably even help him receiver-wise as well, as far as getting out of that jam, you know, corners trying to press him, because that's one of his, you could argue, like, I'm really big on the Deebo Samuel trade. I feel like it was a steal to get him for a 5th round pick, especially now looking back and thinking of how Cliff Kingsbury can utilize him in the offense. I'm very excited about Deebo Samuel, but one weakness that he does have is getting open against man coverage and especially beating press man off the line of scrimmage. Maybe these improved boxing skills can help him there. I'm just throwing out an option. I'm throwing out a guess, an idea. I'm not saying that it certainly will, but it would be nice. Also, moving on, shouts out to Brandon at J Daniels MVP. He brings up a good point. Super random, but be thankful that we have Jaden Daniels. He said randomly on March 15th, tweeted, I know this has been said a million times already, but man, I'm glad that the Russell Wilson trade to Washington never happened. 3 first-round picks and more scream Dan Snyder. Thank God those days are behind us, and we have a competent front office and ownership and an elite quarterback as well. And I completely forgot that, like, that was a situation where we apparently offered 3 first-round picks and more to get Russell Wilson from the Seattle Seahawks, and it was Russell Wilson that said no. Apparently the Redskins were all for it. Please give me Russell Wilson type of stuff, and Russell Wilson is the one that told us no, and thank goodness he did, because we would not have Jaden Daniels right now. Who knows what would have happened career trajectory wise? I'm pretty confident in saying we wouldn't have won a Super Bowl and our future would be nowhere near as bright as what it is right now with Jaden Daniels. I mean, you could even make an argument that maybe Adam Peters would have looked at that situation with the lack of first round picks from, you know, and the lack of talent that they had, and the fact that Russell Wilson was a lingering older free agent quarterback, a veteran quarterback at the very least. Maybe we wouldn't have looked like the landing spot that he could go into like we were when he got here last year, this time basically a little bit like a month and a year ago, basically. Like, he was like, okay, this is a completely clean slate. So much cap space, so much draft capital. I know this team is bad, but we can figure something out. If Russell Wilson were here, just, you know, thinking about the whole butterfly effect and how, like, we would have kept, instead of like going ahead and being like, all right, let's go ahead and do a full rebuild, we probably would have been trying to convince ourselves, well, we got Russell Wilson, we should just keep trying to win, and stand in the middle of the pack, always having draft picks that are never high enough to get, you know, truly automatically elite players, you know, guys that you have a better chance of being elite, and then we're just consistently putting money into Russell Wilson's pockets. We don't have as much cap space. Who knows? It could have been a terrible situation. Just be thankful that Russell Wilson said no. Shouts out to him. If you ever see Russell Wilson in real life and you're a burgundy and gold fan, at least salute him and dap him up for that. Even if he doesn't understand why you're dapping him up, give him a hug, man. Now moving on, we have some important Commanders front office news as well, some business to get to. Well, first of all, we had a loss. Amina Bullman, who joined the Commanders front office in 2020 and was their chief brand and strategy officer for the last 2 years, has left to become the chief revenue officer for the NWSL's Boston expansion team. Shouts out to her. She was hired by BOS Nation as their chief revenue officer. She will assume duties with the team starting in mid-March. So basically by now she's already started. Bowman joins Boston from her role as chief branding and strategy officer for the Washington Commanders, where she spent almost 5 years. She initially joined them in 2020 as the chief of staff before becoming the senior VP of corporate affairs and strategy, and ultimately their chief brand and strategy officer. During this time, she helped rebuild the Commanders' corporate culture and guided them through their rebranding process, overseeing business planning and analytics, marketing and content, corporate communications, merchandise, and community relations. So she was a very big part of how do we get rid of this Dan Snyder stink on the business, marketing, people relations side, merchandise, all of that type of stuff. The entire business, corporate side, pretty much anything outside of football, she had a hand in how we turn this thing around from the embarrassment of what Dan Snyder was to what we currently have going on right now. And I'm very appreciative. But at the same time, with the new addition, the Commanders hired former JBG Smith executive vice president Andy Van Horn as their head of real estate, as WBJ Online noted. He oversees all real estate related work with the team's properties and is the lead on their stadium development project he started back in January, actually. Shouts out to Ashutosh, I believe that's how it goes, how you say that, from Twitter, wrote an article, essentiallysports.com. And in that article, breaking down the hiring, that person said Andy Van Horn has described his current job with Dan Quinn's Commanders. The job description in his LinkedIn bio right now, you can go look at it. I'm the leading real estate related efforts for the new team stadium, support facilities, and adjacent real estate. This is big time for us. Like, this guy is very important. You're going to want to know who this guy is. In this role, I work closely with the land sellers, government entities, and local officials, and I'm responsible for the design, construction, and completion of the real estate elements associated with the new stadium, as well as other team projects in the Washington metro area. That's coming directly from his LinkedIn. The Washington Commanders are eyeing the RFK site where they once played. The site is said to be still federally controlled. But Andy Van Horn's LinkedIn profile shows his connection with the Washington Commanders franchise goes all the way back to January this year. So even though it hasn't necessarily been like announced or even really noticed until March, he's been here since January. If we just scroll down his LinkedIn profile, we also notice that he has already worked in the top and responsible positions before taking charge of the head office of the Washington Commanders real estate works. Talking about his experiences in the field, Andy Van Horn worked with JBG Smith for nearly 16 years. He was a principal at the company for nearly 12 years, and after being promoted to the executive vice president job, the Washington Commanders picked him up. Before that job, he also worked with Dweck Properties. And after Andy Van Horn's hiring for the real estate head position for the Washington Commanders, it is highly anticipated by many that the stadium work will proceed at a fast pace. Now let's just see how it moves ahead. I'm excited, man. I think this guy is going to get things going. And then in other good news as far as the stadium goes, it was reported that a huge win for Mayor Bowser in DC with the help from Senator Collins' Senate passes legislation exempting DC from CR $1 billion budget cut. Now must get House approval, but with POTUS and Tom Cole supporting is a good sign for the Commanders. And so this is basically good budget news for Washington, D.C. and the prospects for a new Washington Commanders stadium at the RFK site. So if you're rooting for this new stadium to be in D.C., the hiring of Van Horn and the $1 billion budget cut that will not apply to DC and the stadium effort are all good news. And then also, speaking of the stadium, just to let you know, the Celtics was sold for $6.1 billion back on March 20th, and the Commanders spent 19 months as the biggest professional sports franchise sale of all time in history of humankind. And then now the Celtics have surpassed that after we had 19 months on top. That's cool. Again, we sold ours for $6.05 billion. The Celtics said, let's just squeeze by you just by a little bit at $6.1 billion. It's cool though. Then moving on, super random, but I completely agree. Shouts out to Matt Miller at NFL Draft Scout, of course. He said, my two don't overthink it prospects this year: wide receiver Luther Burden and safety Malachi Starks. Now, granted, of course, I'm biased towards my Georgia Bulldogs, but I completely agree with both. I'm not even going to super dive into that right now. We could probably talk about that in a later video, but just to let you know, hey, don't overthink Luther Burden, Malachi Starks. Don't overthink Walter Nolan or Michael Williams. Those are like my super guys where you better not let those guys fall to 29 to the Washington Commanders, because watch what we do with them. Now, moving on, Al Galdi also brings up a great point about the fact that we lost Dante Fowler. I know a lot of people are upset about that, but think about it from this point of view. He tweeted back on March 15th, the Commanders signed Dante Fowler to a one-year contract, only paid him less than $5 million for the 2024 season, in which he had 10.5 sacks, not his norm, the second most sacks of his career, and he far outplayed his contract's value. He was a very valuable player to us when you're talking about production per dollar. He far exceeded the money that we paid him. And now the Commanders are projected to get a 2026 sixth round compensatory pick for him going to the Cowboys. So we definitely call that a win for Adam Peters, man. We're paying him less than what the Cowboys are paying him right now, like nearly half, and he gave us 10.5 sacks. We'll see what he even gives the Cowboys, because it may not even be that, and then we're also potentially going to end up with a compensatory pick in the 6th round for it as well. I feel like that is a big win right there. I would have liked to have brought him back, but that's still a win as well. Also, moving on, now it's time for two major advanced stats as to why Laremy Tunsil is elite, man. So, it was pointed out that Lane Johnson was the only left tackle last season to allow just 10 pressures while playing over 900 snaps. The other offensive tackles that allowed the next fewest pressures in 2024 was Tristan Wirfs with 12, Jordan Mailata had 14, tied with Taylor Moton. Then you had Teron Armstead with 16. Then you had Spencer Brown with 17. Mike McGlinchey at 18. And then Laremy Tunsil and Brian O'Neill were tied at 19. So there's an argument to be made that even though Laremy Tunsil led the NFL in penalties out of offensive linemen last year, he was still at the very least a top 10 offensive lineman when it comes to pressures allowed. And then at the same time, over the past 3 seasons, and if you're subscribed to the Commanders Kings, you've already seen this stat, but over the last 3 seasons, when it comes to offensive tackles with the lowest allowed pressure rates, you have Tristan Wirfs in first place with only 2.3%. That's insane. And then there's a big gap. And then you have Laremy Tunsil second at 3.2% ahead of everybody else. Lane Johnson, Penei Sewell, Brian O'Neill, Taylor Moton, any elite tackle that you could think of. Laremy Tunsil over the last 3 years is only behind Tristan Wirfs in allowed pressure rates. So we have ourselves a dog in Laremy Tunsil. Also, next up, Sean Taylor has officially made it to the Madden NFL Ring of Honor class of 2025, like you can see on the screen right now. And my only complaint is that it's weird seeing him in like our current Commanders jersey. Now I know it's a video game, but I don't know. Maybe they're not allowed to, but I definitely would have preferred to have seen them in a Redskins jersey. And I'm not even one of those people that's screaming to bring the Redskins back. It just kind of looks weird for a Redskins player to be wearing anything but a Redskins jersey. Like if they put Darryl Green in a game, I would expect to see the one with the arrow on the helmet that I love, those throwback jerseys. So, I mean, I'm just happy. I'm appreciative of the love that anytime Sean Taylor's getting any love, especially outside of our fan base, I'm happy either way. I'll take it. And then also, lastly, before we get up out of here, on March 12th, Irvin Magic Johnson hung out with Jaden Daniels and his mom and tweeted, I enjoyed sitting down with our star quarterback Jaden Daniels and his mom Regina Jackson today, talking about the upcoming season and life after football. Commanders fans, we have a true leader. It was great to get to know Jaden off the field and listen to his mom's vision for the brand. So shouts out to Magic Johnson doing whatever he can outside of even football, taking time out of his busy schedule to meet with Jaden Daniels and his mom and talk business after football, during football. I mean, I'm pretty sure they talk some football as well, but he's completely focused on making sure Jaden Daniels is as successful as possible, even outside of football, during and after football. I love that. And then also, lastly, before we get up out of here, shouts out to Jaden Daniels and Drake May for teaming up to help some families, you know, give them some things that lost their everything basically in the LA fires that happened. Jaden Daniels, Drake May stepped up to, and there's a whole really nice video of that. If you want to go look that up, shouts out to the Fanatics. They partnered with the Fanatics to do that. So go on the Fanatics Twitter page or wherever you can find it to watch the video. I think it's worth the watch, but I would show it, but I don't want YouTube to demonetize me. Fanatics to tell YouTube to take my video down or anything like that. But of course, I would, if I could, I would love to show y'all that video because it's beautiful. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed the video. Please still farm that like button, still farm the subscription button, still farm the bell. Next, that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned for more videos, especially more Rico reports. Again, anything that just happens to fall through the cracks, maybe it wasn't a headlining news article that everybody's talking about, I make sure I bring y'all even the most random news and I put them all into one big report like this one. So let me know if you want more Rico reports like these, and of course stay tuned for more other videos like the Javon Kinlaw video. I promise you is on the way soon, and I really want to start doing some film sessions for a lot of the draft prospects I want to get into that are like some of my favorites in the class, and of course those are going to be exclusive to channel members only. I also want to do more mock drafts. I have so many video ideas, so many screens, so many windows, so many tabs of all of the ideas I have. It's just about being able to sit down and get them to y'all. And of course, let me know if you agree, disagree with anything. And if you have any specific comments or anything that I talked about in this video, let me know all of that. I really appreciate y'all. Make sure you leave a like on the way out. And also, oh, my bad. As promised, the fun fact for the day, Kirk Cousins broke his own club single season record for 1 year earlier when he passed for 4,917 yards for Washington in 2016, and that mark still stands entering 23. Yeah, I hate these 2022 stats because like, and it is a 2025 calendar. Like it's March 23rd, which is Sunday. But I don't know why they keep bringing up 2022 things. Like even the fact that they brought up this stat saying that this is like the highest passing yard season for a quarterback in Washington at the very least since entering 2023. So they haven't updated this since 2023. I don't know. We get a lot of great trivia and random fun facts in this, but the 2022 stuff or anything Kirk Cousins wise, I'm not really happy about. But hey, man, there goes your fun fact for the day. I'm sorry it had to be that one. But again, make sure you leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.